Good morning, everybody.
Good morning.
I'm going to call this meeting to order. The April 16th Development Committee, if I could have a roll call, please.
Sam is not in today. I'm sick.
Oh, no wonder I haven't seen it.
Roll call, please. Yeah.
Okay, member Krajewski. Member Chaplin, here. Member Guston.
Here.
Member Ozoff.
Here.
Member Rutledge. Here. Chair Tornatori.
Thank you. And in, I'll just say that in, Chairman's, wish him a speedy recovery from whatever bug is he's under the weather with today. So I'm happy to chair the meeting. Do we have any public comment? No public comment. So I'll ask for a motion, or I'll make a motion on the minutes approval 24-1272. All in favor?
Hi.
Item carries. Regulatory services, DCO 23-24, zoning 23-4090, WAG Suites. The zoning board of appeals recommended to approve the following zoning relief: conditional use to operate an indoor kennel in a B2 general business zoning district. This is in North Avenue in St. Charles. Can I make a motion?
Second.
Questions? I actually have questions on this one too. Not that I'm gonna, that I don't support this, but I thought it was interesting that we're only approving them for 10 dogs, but it's gonna move up to 50 during holidays. Is that the applicant's desire?
Yes.
Okay. And how many overnight employees will they have on those circumstances when they have dogs?
One.
Okay, so there will be somebody there. And then the other question was, it talked about floor drains could not go into the septic field. How are they gonna keep urine out of there?
If this gets approved, they'll have to get a building permit and they'll have to get a permit.
Like a
from-
drain system
Yes,
underneath?
they'll have to do that before they get a building permit to open.
And whoever did their logo, absolutely adorable. So that's all of my questions. We had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Hi.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next is DCO 24-24, zoning 24-9, Barnes. The zoning hearing officer recommended to approve the following zoning relief: a variation to reduce the rear yard setback for a new pool shed from required 3 feet to approximately 2 feet. That also is in the Wayne District 6. Can I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I'm sorry, any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next is DCO 25-24, zoning 24-10. Chicago title, the zoning hearing officer recommended to approve the following zoning relief: conditional use for a principal recreational use in the R2 zoning district to allow for a 2,112 square foot timber frame barn with 4 stables to be built for the owner's horses.
Second.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Actually, Paul, I have a question on this one as well. Through all of the documentation, it talks about the owner of the property's horses, yet this is under Chicago title. Is that kind of typical? Okay, thank you. Thank you. Sorry. Thank you, Patty.
No, I'm sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Thank you. Next is DCO 26-24. Zoning 24-12, mobile Glen Ellen, variation to reduce the corner side setback for a relocated sign from required 15 feet setback to approximately 3.1 feet due to IDOT right-of-way taking. And then 2 is a variation to reduce the rear yard setback for a relocated sign from required 20 feet setback to approximately 2.7 feet due to IDOT right-of-way. We had a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. DCO 27-24, zoning 24-13, CTLTC, zoning recommended approval for conditional use to reduce the interior setback of an existing fence from 3 feet to approximately 0 feet for an existing fence post on the property line. Did I hear a second? I'm
I'll
sorry.
second.
Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. DCO 28-24, that's zoning 24-15, Weiss. Conditional use to allow existing shed to remain less than 10 feet from the west property line where it has existed for the last 5 years.
Second.
And I have a second. Thank you, Liz. We have a motion and a second. Any questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. DCO 29-24, zoning 24-16, Korea. Conditional use to allow a 6-foot, 100% closed fence within the 10-foot corner side yard setback.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any
We don't
comments?
have a motion.
I'm sorry. Oh, did I not? I'm sorry. I'll ask for a motion.
Second.
Okay,
Or so moved.
so moved, second,
Second.
thank you. Questions or comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? That motion carries. Next, I'll make a motion on 24-1273, DuPage County Liquor Ordinance proposed changes related to
Second.
video gaming.
Can we get a little description or?
Yeah.
Motion and a second.
Just real quick, I apologize for interrupting. This is not an action item. This is information only.
Oh, okay.
This correlates with some of our text amendments, but in talking to the county board office, this is a liquor code ordinance change proposal that Jason wanted to bring to you and just talk a little bit about because it also relates to something we're doing for zoning, but it's only information.
No vote
No action
necessary.
today.
Okay.
And this is 24-12-73,
Yes.
Paul,
Correct.
and can somebody explain?
Yeah, that's what I'm here to talk about
Thank
today.
you.
So, as some might be aware, as we've gone through the liquor code, we did an audit of the liquor code. We found a few things that were, not really with where we want to be state-wise, state compliance-wise. So in that, we've started an initial review of the liquor code, some changes that we're gonna bring forward. The reason I don't have a full handout, we're just doing one last final review of the legal side of it. We want to make sure it's perfect, but only informational because we're going to coincide with what development's going to do with zoning requirements with some of this. And some of the text amendments that Paul will talk about right after this. Currently though, a big thing that's come up and the reason for the audit was as we're looking at video gaming terminal, facilities. So we have some convenience stores that have video gaming terminals within their facility. They have what is called a Class A packaged liquor license and a Class B restaurant tavern license. Inherently, they don't actually merge in our code. They've been issued for many years at this point, since 2019. Per requirement of the state of Illinois, in order to get a video gaming terminal license from the state, you have to have what's considered a pour license, or you have to be able to pour alcohol at the facility that you're at. The only pour license we have here at the county is Class B. So all of those individuals applied for the Class B restaurant and tavern, which causes some issues from the zoning side as well, because you're running a restaurant and tavern. That may have been a conventional or a convenience store. Convenience is the word I was looking for. So with that, we've compared to what some other counties do, what some other municipalities do, and how they address matters of this. What we're looking at doing is creating 2 new classes of liquor licenses. A Class G1, which would be a standalone video gaming terminal cafe. So it'd be a little bit different than that restaurant, would have a little bit different requirements in regards to parking, things like that. I'll let Paul's the expert on that, not me with that. But what it would do is allow just consumption on premises. So they're able to get their liquor license, the video gaming terminal license from the state. So that's the standalone where there's no other sales except the actual 6 video gaming terminals and a bar that's within there. A G2 license would be created, which would be considered an accessory video gaming terminal license. What it would do is it can only coincide with a packaged A liquor sale. So a packaged A right now does not allow any consumption on property. We would amend it to say, if you get an additional liquor license, a Class G2, that is how you can get the pour license. That G2 license, though, will make it to where it has to be built within the facility separate from the main purpose of the business. So it'd have to be blocked off, closed off in some way, fashion, like that, where they can serve alcohol right in there where those terminals are. So it would allow that multi-use, but it would be, we're taking some, safety precautions. We don't want alcohol walking around the entirety of the store. It'd be required to be maintained in that area. So what we're doing is proposing these changes. And again, we wanted more direction based off just some initial comments. If you're okay with it, we'll finalize it and bring it for a full discussion. You guys can view everything. But just any initial comments as well. By doing these G1 and G2, we can actually, we'd set it up to probably about 15 establishments. If for some reason there was more than 15, that's when they'd have to come back here and we'd have to amend it to allow additional. I know that came up in a meeting once of how do we do it with controlling the amount of liquor licenses? Well, this is a start of doing it. It's easier to create that new license and allow people to apply than it is to minimize what's already out there. So, but that would be the major changes in regards to the licensure. Again, it's, safe wise as well. We're gonna do just some cleanup throughout the actual liquor ordinance to make sure it complies with state statute and liquor code. Since COVID, things have changed in that state liquor code, so that's what we're trying to update.
Member Chapman.
Oh, thank you. All right, so just because I'm trying to understand this. So like a gas station, they have video gaming in there. So are you saying where the video gaming is in that gas station, they're gonna be able to serve alcohol?
Yes, so, well, time out,
Purchase and
time out. Let me rephrase.
Bartender there?
Yeah, so they would have to comply with all the same BASIT requirements, everything like that. So right now, if there is establishments out there, I think we said roughly 11, I think maybe roughly 11 establishments that have an A and B. So they already have this license. We're now changing it and making it so we regulate it a little easier.
Wait a minute. So they have a license where they could
Yes,
serve
Yeah.
alcohol in the gas station?
I'm unaware of a gas station that has, oh, is there one? Okay, thank you, Paul. This is where I'll double check with
And
you.
this lines up with state law?
Yes, so.
Okay. Well, if
Yeah,
it's a state law,
it's,
okay.
the
a
local
little-
liquor commissioner or local liquor is decided by the municipality, so unincorporated, we can determine what we do with that, but.
Okay.
Yeah, sorry, there is a gas, thank you, I couldn't remember, but there is convenience stores that currently do that right now as well. But again, this is where by creating this class, we actually get a little bit more regulation and can ensure that doesn't happen. Or however we want it to happen.
All right, so wait, by doing this, we're ensuring that they're not gonna be pouring in the
No,
gas
I'm
station?
sorry, no, we're clarifying how they do it. So yes, I mean, the Bassett and stuff through restaurant stuff, it's already being done.
Mhm.
We're now making it so we're regulating it easier.
Okay.
And just as an example, there's a mixture of video gaming, which is all state controlled.
Yep.
And local liquor. And where those two come to meet is that the state video gaming regulations require that you get a liquor license to pour from your local jurisdiction. So that's where the connection comes in. So the county has no regulations dealing with video gaming, except that we're tangentially involved because you got to get a liquor license to pour. There are 4 types of gaming licenses that you can get from the state. There's social and fraternal orders, those like the VFWs and the Eagles clubs and things like that. There's also a general retail license. That's predominantly the type of licenses that we're going to be seeing. There's also the ability to do it in 2 types of gas stations. One, a regular gas station where you pour a certain amount of gasoline in a certain time period. And then the other is a large truck stop facility. We likely are not going to see any truck stop facilities because we don't have any in the unincorporated area. Where we're going to likely see ours are going to be in the gas stations, the C stores, the 7-Elevens that we have, and then also in the fraternal and social clubs.
Okay, so, all right, so let me, because I'm just trying to wrap my head around. So in order to get a gaming license, do you have to have a liquor license?
Yes.
Yes.
So you can't have a gaming license without a liquor license?
Correct.
And just
Okay.
intuitively, you look at those 2 things and you say, those seem to.
Well, I get, I know why,
spend
well, I know
money.
exactly why, right? Yeah.
Well,
that's right.
the reason for it is that the
Well,
state
business.
understands that you are likely going to have a lot more, you're going to have a lot more, review of an establishment through a local liquor license. We don't, the only real license that, for instance, the county has where you have to go through building, zoning, health, and sheriff to get a background check are the liquor licenses. If you come in for a building permit, you don't have to do a background check. So essentially, I think the reasoning from the state standpoint, I think this is what we've heard, is that the reason that they require the liquor license, while it seems to be intuitively the opposite direction, is that you're gonna have more scrutiny over the actual proprietor with the background check and the fingerprint.
Okay,
Makes sense.
I'll talk about the legislative.
Thank you. Liz, I think, Paula, you were next.
Yeah, just clarification on what a pour means. That's what I'm not
Sorry,
understanding.
okay,
I
so.
mean, is there someone pouring?
No,
the drinks,
pour,
or
yes,
is it-
yes. So what it
Right.
means is, so, and this is by the state for how you get video game tournament. You have to pour the alcohol, pour the drink, if you want to say it that way, at the establishment. So that's why we call it a pour license. It's because it means the alcohol is being consumed on premises.
So the person who bought it could be the one pouring it. Is that what you're saying?
No. So packaged liquor sale and consumption on property are two great. So if you buy it, their package, you would not be able to consume it on property.
So they have to
However,
have someone there pouring the alcohol.
and that would have to be a
So
Bassett
in a
certified
convenience
individual.
store or a gas station, they would have someone who is Bassett trained
Yep,
to pour the alcohol.
yes, ma'am.
And we have that now in those?
Yes, we do have quite a few establishments, like the 7, 8, I think are convenient ones, yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number you.
Oh, thank you, Chair. Like particularly this new class G1, is this really like, as a result of the Patel petition? Was that the impetus for the, because I remember just last week, we were voting on whether or not they could have the, what was it? The parking, right? It was a parking issue. So
Right.
anyways, I just want to know what is the impetus for these changes that you guys are.
So
putting in?
upon finding out, when we were brought aware of this situation, I did an audit of the licenses and I determined that inherently having a class A and class B is contradictory. One allows consumption on property, the other does not. I determined that it's not good practice for us. And that's when I began to review this and working with building and zoning and talking about the process as a whole. And at that point, our team said, you know what, if we're gonna do this, let's fix this and make this the appropriate way. And Paul will talk about some of the other back end stuff that has to happen to make this right. So we saw a problem, we're trying to bring you a result to fix that.
Thank you. Member Rosa.
So I've got a convenience store and I have a video game.
Yes, ma'am.
And would I be grandfathered into not having to make a separate area? Because it sounds like this is causing a separate area with a pour in it.
No.
Or would I not have a video game because I don't pour?
So if you didn't have a pour license, you would not be able to
Got
do
it.
video game tours, correct?
Okay.
That is correct.
So grandfathering isn't really.
That's not, no, because these are yearly licenses, you're
Okay.
not grandfathered in.
Oh,
You
okay.
have it till the end of the year,
Got it.
but we don't have to reissue you the next license.
Got it.
However, as the direction I've always received from this board is we're business friendly. I'm trying to make it to where we have the least amount of
Okay, got it.
disruption in business operations.
Got it. Thank you.
And you know what, and Paul, I apologize that I didn't start with this. In 2019 is when the county board removed the video gaming terminal ban. Up until 2019, video gaming terminals were not allowed in unincorporated DuPage County. They took a vote, that ban was lifted, however, no regulations were put into effect. This is how all of this happened. The regulations weren't put in. We have now seen the issues. We're trying to get it to where we're going to build all these regulations in. Paul will talk about the larger regulation aspect. The liquor is only one portion of it. So it's a holistic issue, and this is why with Paul's credit, when we did the cannabis, there's a reason we did the whole regulation and discussion was because we found out with the video gaming that's what happens is we had the issue of, okay, well, there is no regulation, so it kind of defaults to what the state is. We would like to change that, make it so you guys have a little bit more control and ability to do that.
Member
Set
Jack.
parameters.
Thank you. So we're not home rule, but we can put our own regulations in?
As long as it complies with state statutes. So liquor licenses are a little bit different. They allow local localities to make a lot more decisions in regards to liquor. There is some limitations on that. We can say, okay, this is what your pour license is for this, like restaurant and tavern, as I said, is the only one. But you can create a cafe license. You can do it where it's beer and wine only. There's a couple options with that. It's a little different. We have a little more autonomy, not a lot, but a little bit more autonomy when it comes to the liquor side.
I have a question too, and I'll promise to get to you. So since we've passed the video gaming, what were the requirements previously for them to do that? Do we have rogue operators out there that have put in gaming machines?
So I wouldn't say rogue, and the reason I wouldn't say rogue is because we did issue a Class B pour license, so they did follow. There's an
What we
inherent
put out.
conflict, but we're the ones that approved it and said, sure. Again, this is why we're changing our processes with the liquor commission. because of that. So, I wouldn't say rogue because they are licensed. However, as most know, if there's an opportunity for somebody, they're gonna find a way, and they have, and good for them that they're conducting their business. And they have complied with all of our requirements, so it's,
Will we
Other
be
than some
pushing
parking.
anybody out of video gaming with
what
this
we'll be
change?
proposing will be including, it would not be pushing anyone out, no. It would be making what the practice is now legal,
Okay,
or more streamlined, let me clarify that.
thanks, Jason.
No problem.
Member Guston.
Thank you. So I'm new here. So video gaming, gambling was not allowed and then recently became allowed. Is that correct?
In 2019 is when that was lifted, yes, ma'am. And it defaults to the state statute then, and that's where we're at with the 4 different options that Paul explained to you.
And so we know that that gambling process can only occur with a liquor license.
Yes.
And that liquor license has to come from the county.
Yeah.
And we have over 100 liquor license in the county, so we filled or not filled. But we
For a
don't
Class
have-
B, let me clarify, we have 100 for a Class B restaurant and tavern.
So we don't have at the county a liquor commission. We have a commissioner,
Mhm.
and that's the chairwoman, but we don't have a commission of people, doctors and business owners and stuff that may be appointed to a board to
Okay.
evaluate each time an applicant comes to seek a liquor license. We don't have that oversight here.
No,
So and we don't have a
Well-
cap on how many can be handed out in a year. Like, we could hand out 100 liquor license in a year if the opportunity was such and applicants came through, if we had those 100 liquor license still available, the chair could, if they want, do that, correct?
they can only go to what our maximum is for
And
each
what- and
license,
what
and
is-
we do determine that.
And what
Class
is-
B restaurant and tavern is 100. Packaged liquor, I want to say is 25, thank you.
25.
25. So it
license in
depends on your
general,
class.
license in general, not determined by class, you got about 125 of them, correct?
there's Class C,
Class
there's a little bit
in
more than
between.
that.
So approximate,
150,
I'm not
160.
keeping on the numbers,
Yeah.
but approximate. So the reality is that we really don't have a lot of oversight on this at all. And you guys are just trying to make steps to have a little bit more control or,
I mean, this would allow, and we'll actually know what's going, so you can get a Class A packaged liquor, but at that time, then there would be the new requirements for getting that additional accessory video gaming terminal pouring license.
yeah, because
So-
we don't, I mean, in Naperville, we don't allow it at all, so it's kind of
Correct.
foreign to me.
Yeah. So, yeah, in ways, yes, and what we're gonna be proposing is 15 of those licenses. So it's lesser than that 25 number. So if somebody gets that packaged A, there's 25 packaged or Class A licenses, there'll be 15 of these ones. So it's not as many, but it'll encompass what we currently have.
Yeah, okay.
Any other questions? So this item was just informational only, so we're gonna move along to item 6. I 24-1275, text amendment to the DuPage County zoning ordinance to add to the definition section relative to video gaming uses and permitted and conditional use sections of the B1 local commercial, B2 general commercial, and I1 light industrial, and I2 general industrial zoning districts to include video gaming cafe and video gaming facilities ancillary to permitted uses in these various zoning districts. T224 text amendments to the DuPage County zoning ordinance to add to the definition section relative to electric vehicles and permitted conditional use sections to allow for electric vehicle charging stations and to add further regulations for lighting performance standards in all zoning districts. And T324 text amendments to the DuPage County zoning ordinance to add to the definition section relative to accessory dwelling units and dwelling units in general, and add new residential use requirements and bulk regulations in all zoning districts. And T424 text amendment to the DuPage County zoning ordinance to add the Lake Street corridor overlay district regulations to the DuPage County zoning ordinance.
Oh, to clarify, you're looking for a consensus.
Consensus, right?
So what we're looking for is a motion and a second to to send this to the zoning board of appeals for public hearing.
I see.
This is
Okay.
not in any way the development committee suggesting that they agree with any of these, just to get it on a public hearing
Move
schedule.
it along. Okay, I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
A second. Thank you, Member Chaplin. Questions and comments? Kind of a lot.
Just real quick.
Please, Paul.
Yeah, so what we did is we broke this into 4 different text amendments. We understand there's priority and scrutiny at different levels that the board wants for these items. So we broke them out into 4 different text amendments. We won't be taking each one of these text amendments to public hearing at the same time, but this just gives us the ability to put them before the zoning board of appeals. Just real quick, housekeeping on T 224, we're also including beekeeping as well.
Okay.
So
There you go,
that.
Patty.
That's in the body of the text that you'll see as well. The reason we chose this schedule is in terms of the first one being the liquor, is that there is a priority to get video gaming cafes and video gaming terminal establishments in line, because we need to do something before the summertime here in correlation with what Jason's doing in the liquor control ordinance. So we took that one first. The second one is dealing with what we've talked about before in terms of electric vehicle charging stations, some of the dark sky initiative that we've talked about in the beekeeping as well. The T3 deals with some of the things that we talked about at the Housing Solutions Committee. These are not dispositive of what we have discussed in terms of developing a program or dealing with some of the financial aspects of housing solutions. What it's dealing with is some things that we have done in the past relative to zoning, not dealing with attainable or affordable housing, just dealing with dwelling units and the ability to build on properties in general. The most important one is that about 20 years ago, we changed the concept of legal non-conforming lots to legal conforming lots by calling lots that were platted before 1957 and look the same way they do today as they did prior to I think I said 47, I meant 57. Those are now considered historic lots of record. They're not grandfathered in a legal non-conforming, which means people can build on those lots if they have certain criteria associated with them. What that change did is it allowed people to come in as of right. They didn't have to go through zoning relief. They were able to come in as of right and get building permits to develop houses on lots. And it sort of changed the way sort of old abandoned properties were sort of sitting languishing out there, and they were able to be redeveloped. What we're proposing here is that we are going to go back to that historic lot of record concept and just change one very tiny thing in the ordinance to allow for those types of lots to be developed at a certain size on any type of utility, sewer, water, well, or septic, irrespective of the lot area. You only need a minimum lot width area. And the minimum lot width area correlates with a lot of lots that are in the unincorporated area that were developed prior to 57, where the lots were 50 feet wide or larger. So what that will do, if we do make this change, it will free up probably about 1,000 single-family lots in the county to be able to be developed as of right. People won't have to come in and ask for zoning relief for those lots. So what we think it will do for attainable, for market rate development, it will free up a lot more properties to be developed on. The second component of this proposal in T3 is that we are taking accessory dwelling units. We have accessory dwelling units allowable in the county right now by conditional use. There's some requirements associated with them. You have to be over the age of 62 to live in there. It has to be a family member, and it can only be in the principal dwelling unit. What we're doing is we're changing that, allowing that as of right for anybody in the existing dwelling unit or in an existing detached dwelling unit established prior to a certain date. That date will likely be the date, if this gets approved, the date of the ordinance. So let's say it gets approved in December of 2024. Any building or detached accessory structure that was built prior to 2024, that would be allowed to be converted into an accessory dwelling unit. What that means is that you couldn't build a new accessory dwelling unit to accommodate the accessory dwelling unit. The reason for that is that we want to make sure that any buildings that are currently in place right now, the people who are living next door to them will know that those buildings are there, those detached accessory buildings are there. And it won't increase the bulk on the property that's already existing. It'll just change the ability to use that detached unit or detached building as a dwelling unit. There's some other components too that we think will mitigate some of the concerns that neighbors might have in terms of the number of people that would be living on the property. Right now, in unincorporated DuPage County, you can have up to 5 people who are unrelated by blood or marriage living in a house together. So we would keep that in place, which means you would not be able to increase the number of people living on the property. It would essentially mean that you could, in the principal building or in a detached accessory building that's existing, you could have a dwelling unit and you can have a kitchen and someone could live in there full time. So essentially, we would have the ability to have 2 units on the property. Effectively, the numbers wouldn't change. The number of vehicles allowed on the property wouldn't change, and the number of buildings on the property wouldn't change from when they were there established before this year.
Can I just clarify? So you're saying that December, people would not be able to build an additional structure, but they could convert existing space?
You could build a detached accessory structure on your property after 2024, but it can only be used, for instance, a shed or a garage. It could not be, you could not build a detached accessory structure for a dwelling unit.
But I could convert existing space.
Right. You could convert an existing detached building as space. And the idea there is that if someone has a house and a detached garage and someone's living next door to them and all of a sudden, you know, in 2026, there's a dwelling unit in that detached garage, people will say, well, where that came from? And we said, well, it's our new zoning code, which allows it. But if someone comes in and builds a brand new building, the person living next door to them never anticipated that a new building for a second dwelling unit would be built next door to them. It may be a difference without a distinction, but the idea there is that when someone moves into a house next door and there's an existing detached building there, they know there's a building there. And it can be used for a garage, or it can be used for, in this proposed code, it can be used for a detached accessory dwelling. But the physical building is already there, so they know it when they move in. We don't want to have a situation where someone builds a new detached accessory building for a new detached accessory dwelling unit, because effectively that could be a problem for the neighbors. It's something that we're going to vet and discuss.
Sure.
But it's a concept that we've seen in other jurisdictions.
So if they're applying for, if they were allowed and were applying for a building permit, unlike a conditional use permit, there is no requirement to alert the neighbors on a building permit versus a conditional use,
Correct.
correct? Okay.
And this idea, this concept right now is as of right. You would not have to go through zoning relief or the zoning process and it be approved ultimately by the county board to have a detached or an attached accessory dwelling. You could do it as of right if you met certain criteria.
So we'll have to push the opportunity to build a separate structure down the road, basically.
Well, and
We're
that-
not considering that at this
Not
time.
considering that at all, but that could be a variation or a conditional use, absolutely.
Oh, okay, thank you. Member Guston.
Couple things to consider, in college areas, a lot what we were seeing is those detached structures were being more, where people could live, and it was usually high school or college kids, which was a different environment for the neighbor than when they bought the house and saw the neighbor's structure there, and then the structure use changed. So things to consider that, yes, when you now have people living in a garage, it changes that garage use to human use, along with the fact that we do have Airbnbs and others. And so it'll be a little difficult to regulate that. So, I mean, I just wanted to throw that out there. So, you know, obviously our departments are gonna make sure the water hookups are right, the electric, the smoke alarms, the this, the that. But, yeah, so there are some drawbacks that you might want to think about, or at least voice to people so that they can make the decisions they want.
Yeah, I suspect that, you'll have to get a permit for all of this, to go through the regular permit process. I suspect that a public hearing will start to hear some folks indicate that maybe this should be that this is a little bit too progressive, and maybe it should be at the very least be a conditional use, similar to what we have for mother-in-law's arrangements right now. But we started out by as of right, and we're putting in the research at public hearing to show why we think it can work as of right because of some of the other protections we're talking about. But if there's pushback, it could always be pushed back to, we could still get a conditional use similar to what we do now. The only difference is it doesn't have to be a family member. It doesn't have to be in the principal building. It doesn't have to be someone who's 62 years of age or older, but you still got to get a conditional use and vet it and let the public know what's going on. That could be an option that we see come out of the public hearings.
Thank you, Paul. Any other comments or questions? Liz? No. I know it's a lot. There's a lot here. And I personally, the ADUs were my push, I think, because I do have one on my property. My son lives in it, had to get a conditional use because he's not 62 years old. I thought that was a little bit more, an overreach, governmental overreach, I'm sorry. Thank you for all of that. And we're just looking on consensus to rather to, so if this goes to building and zoning and they decline any of this, that's the last we'll see of this. Is that right?
No.
Okay.
What it'll do, and we've got one last one, just real quick.
Sure.
We've got the T4, which is the Lake Street Overlay District zoning. This is what we've been working on with CMAP and our outside consultant Tesca and Hanover Park, Roselle and Bloomingdale for the last 3.5 years. And we've sort of come to a consensus now where we have a body of work that we'd like to incorporate into our zoning ordinance for the entire Lake Street corridor. And essentially what that is to overlay an entire new zoning district on that corridor with use allowances and regulations and bulk requirements and things like that. So this text amendment would ultimately take the Lake Street corridor, which is essentially from Gary Avenue on the west side up to probably say Garden Avenue on the east side, Lake Street up on the northwestern part of the county. And we would create a whole new zoning district that would do a couple of things. It would make sure that when someone came in for zoning relief on a property, that all 4 communities, the county, Hanover Park, Bloomingdale, and Roselle were sort of had a consensus of what we wanted to see in that corridor. That's an oversimplification of it. Also, if someone came in as of right, the cities would not have any objections to development as of right because they are complying with the new overlay corridor that they agreed with as well. Now, what we're looking for is that approval to send all of these to the Zoning Board of Appeals at particular times for public hearing. All of these matters will come back to the Development Committee for your review with a finding of fact and recommendation from the Zoning Board of Appeals on each one of these text amendments and each one of the specific items in the text amendments as well.
Thank you, Paul.
Lots of opportunity for discussion.
Right? Oh, my goodness. So we don't need a formal vote. We just a show of hands for a consensus to move this to building and zoning. Looks like you have your
To
consensus.
the Zoning Board of Appeals.
Thank you. You have your consensus. Okay, next on the agenda is old business. Any old business? Seeing none. Any new business? Also seeing none. Without objection, we're adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.